Good stuff. All right, my favorite persuasion error of the day. Are you ready for this? Here's the error of the day in the persuasion world. Now remember, the regular world is where people imagine that facts and reasons and policies make a difference to people's decisions. They obviously make a difference in the real world, but maybe not to their political decisions. Whereas in the real world, the one that I live in, the persuasion realm, people associate things irrationally. So if you can associate somebody with some bad character, you win, even if there's no logical association between them. You just have to pair things, and then they take on the qualities of the other. This is important because the anti-Trump press just made one of the biggest persuasion errors you're going to ever see, which I might have made a little bit worse for them. And it was the story that ex-President Jimmy Carter, now 95 years old, claimed in an interview on stage, and then it became the news on CNN. He claimed that President Trump did not win the election legitimately, but that Russia threw the election to Trump. Now, here's the problem. Independent of the claim itself, which I think we would agree has been debunked by the Mueller report, that's not really the story. Now, that's the story that's being reported in the two-dimensional realm. In the two-dimensional realm, there's an important person, an ex-president, he's got an opinion, it has something to do with things we've talked about, Russia collusion. It's a story, right? That's all you need. It's a story. But here's the problem. Who is on your mind right now? Well, Jimmy Carter's on your mind because that's the story. Who else is on your mind for possibly being too old to be a president? That's right, Joe Biden. And completely unintentionally, the anti-Trump media digs up this Jimmy Carter, zombie corpse, probably famous as being the worst president we've ever had, at least in modern memory. The worst president we've ever had, who is also clearly too old. Hey, let's talk about Joe Biden now. Do you see the problem? Hey, we're talking about Jimmy Carter, the worst Democrat president there ever was, and he's way too old and he's saying crazy stuff. Hey, let's talk about Joe Biden now. You get it? It's the worst persuasion mistake they've ever made. Maybe. It's the worst one I can remember. Because they've now paired your memory of Biden with memories of Jimmy Carter, worst president ever, who's too old. It's devastating. Now, I said earlier that I magnified their error. Well, I couldn't help it. So I did a Twitter poll. Now, Twitter polls are not exactly scientific, but somebody's saying it's on purpose because they're trying to bury Biden. Could be. But I won't rule that out. So I won't assume that I know their intentions. I'll just say that it was devastating for Biden. So that's a good correction. Thank you for that. Anyway, it looks like CNN is really running out of material because they lost Avenatti. That kind of fell apart. And if the best you can do is an ex-president who's not operating on all cylinders, it's not looking so good for at least beating President Trump. Have you noticed that even the Democrats are now saying out loud that they don't have anybody who can beat Trump? It feels like I think Morning Joe was even saying that he doesn't see anybody who could beat Trump, and I think he's right. Trump at this point just has to stay out of trouble. Now, what are the odds that Trump will stay out of trouble between now and Election Day? Well, probably zero, right? I mean, he may not do anything intentionally, but There's always something he'll get blamed for. So it could be fun. All right, let's talk about President Trump a little bit. Oh, before we do that, let's talk about Biden a little bit. So here's a quote from Biden. He was just addressing 150 supporters in a fundraiser. And he said he was in the 2020 race, this is Joe Biden, because USA is at a turning point. Is that a good reason? He's in the race because the USA is at a turning point? That doesn't even make sense. But he goes on, so let's see if the reason follows. Quote, "It doesn't mean I'm going to win. Doesn't mean I'm the only person who can be a good president. I hope I can make a contribution." Now, one of the things, I'm going to read that again, and I want you to hear it as capitulation. Yeah, somebody in the comments is calling it loser speak. That's what it is. One of the things that I learned in hypnosis class, which is one of the most useful things I ever learned, is that people reveal their intentions by their choice of words. Now, the most useful way that you can use that rule, that people reveal their secret intentions or their secret thoughts by their choice of words, is if you're trying to seduce somebody. Would you like a tip on seduction? Here it comes. People who are willing to be seduced, so we're not talking about convincing somebody who isn't already there. I'm not talking about manipulation. I'm talking about simply reading people to know if they're already in the mood, because that would be useful if you want to seduce, to know somebody's already there. And the way that you can tell they're there is their choice of words. And their choice of words won't be direct. Yes, somebody's using my example. Maybe I've used it before. But if somebody's hungry and instead of saying, "I'm famished," if they accidentally say, "Man, I'm ravished," if a woman says that. If a woman says, "Man, I haven't eaten all day, I'm ravished," that's pretty much telling you green light. Now that's, kind of an on-the-nose example, but you'll see that in their choice of words in general. People will also give up their kinks through their choice of words. So if somebody likes to be tied up, for example, they will actually use that kind of language in their normal talk. So they'll talk about, "Well, I got roped into this project and I couldn't get away. I was all tied up," and stuff like that. So as a hypnotist, one of the things you learn is that people broadcast their secret thoughts through their specific choice of words. And if you don't think that works, just keep an eye on it. That's all I'll ask. I want you to make a claim, because I don't have a scientific study for this. But just watch it. See how often people do broadcast their inner thoughts by their specific choice of words. So Biden has now signaled capitulation. I'm going to read it again just so you can hear it now that I've described what you're looking for. So Biden said, "It doesn't mean I'm going to win. Doesn't mean I'm the only person who can be a good president. I hope I can make a contribution." That last sentence is capitulation. I hope I can make a contribution. People who think they can be president, or at least haven't given up yet, don't talk like that. They say, "When I'm president," and stuff like that. They don't say, "Well, I hope I can make a contribution." In other words, he has already relegated himself from future president to person who made a positive effect on the race. Yeah, that's game over. All right. So as Richard Barris, who apparently is a